Are you on the dock or are you on the yacht? There is no wrong answer. There is just a truthful answer and a deceitful answer. Think about it. Only you will know if you're being honest with yourself about your life, about your personality, about your desires, your wants. It's okay if you want to live your life on the dock, and it's okay if you want to live your life on the yacht. Either way, by clarifying what you actually want, that's how you're going to reach fulfillment in your life. By truthfully answering this question in this episode, you will, 1, be closer to happiness than you've ever been. 2, have a better understanding of why you chose the dock or why you chose the yacht. 3, you will instantly increase your confidence about your future decision making. 4, finally, you will have the courage to overcome your pride and read the Fulfillment Vital Signs book. But no matter what, by watching and or listening to this episode, you will be better for it. I have no doubt about that. Are you on the dock or are you on the yacht? Here's the meaning of this analogy. If you're on the dock, your life is in surviving mode. Let me explain that. Surviving mode. It looks like Otis Redding in 1968. He wrote a song called Sitting by the Dock of the Bay. Are you sitting on the dock of the bay? Are you watching the tide roll away? Are you sitting by the dock of the bay wasting time? So Otis Redding said, it looks like nothing's going to change, so I'll just remain the same, sitting by the dock of the bay, wasting time. This is a surviving song. This is a surviving mode song from a person who is in a surviving mode mentality. In 1968, think about it. This is the post-civil rights movement still going on. This is Otis Redding commenting, or this is Otis Redding pretty much reacting to the atmosphere during that time frame. This is Otis Redding reacting to the climate of that particular atmosphere. What was that environment like? It was volatile, it was hostile, but at the same time, it was still growing. There were still technological advances. It almost balanced itself out. There was happiness and joy and growth in America, but there was also mourning, grief, pain, struggle, conflict in America. But that's just everyday living in your life. There's conflict, and then there's joy. There's smiles and there's tears. There's laughter and there's sadness. There's pain and there's happiness. And so what we're talking about when we're talking about surviving mode, we're talking about Otis Redding. He is saying that he doesn't feel like anything has changed and it feels like everything's the same. And for him, he would just sit by the dock of the bay, wasting time. What does that look like during sunset? What does that look like when the water's setting? Maybe it's peaceful. Maybe it's a way of coping. When you just listen to the melody in that song, just surviving certain situations in your life actually feels good, actually feels peaceful, that hopefully you have survived the worst. The dock never moves. It's connected to dry land and water. It's stable, steady, reliable, and safe. You are less likely to die if you stay on the dock. Now, if you are on the yacht, your life is in striving mode. Striving mode looks like you're trying to reach some destination. You're trying to you're trying to advance. You're trying to progress. You're willing to discover new things in the open sea, in the open water, in the open ocean. You're willing to get into the yacht, and the yacht is typically, especially when we're talking about a yacht, we're talking about a form of luxury, a higher level of comfort. There's more features on it. There's more things to do on the yacht, as opposed to the dock. The Dock is pretty stable, pretty steady. But the yacht can go anywhere. It can go to many docks. It could even dock at a certain port. It can pull up on shore. But the yacht, you have to ask yourself, are you on the yacht? Are you the owner of the yacht? Or are you just a guest on the yacht? Did you get dressed up in all white with some Nautica boat shoes, a polo shirt, some sunglasses, and $1 billion smile? It's hard to be depressed on a yacht. Otherwise, why are you even there? Who invited you? Or are you just a stowaway? Maybe you're a worker. This is a striving mode when you are on the yacht. It's a striving mode moment for a person. It's a striving mode mentality. If you're on the yacht, it's more adventure, but it's more risk. It's unpredictable, but the yacht has many more options. There's nothing wrong with being on the dock or being on the yacht. But there's actually a third mode. If you are the owner of your own yacht, then your life is in thriving mode. You can dock where you please. You can go where you please. In the various aspects of your life, when you are in your own yacht, you choose the direction of what aspect or what direction you want to take a certain aspect of your life. And you could take it past the three modes of surviving, of striving, and you can reach thriving mode. This particular book, Fulfillment Vital Signs, it talks about the 10 aspects of life. It talks about the three modes of life. And this whole episode will continue to talk about it. When you are in thriving mode, you get to move when you want to move in a certain aspect of your life. You get to strategize and set all the moments of peace and all the moments of joy. You get to make it all work for your good, for your family's good, for your life. You get to decide what type of life you want to have instead of just reacting to life. When you're in survival mode, you're reacting to the nature of life. You're reacting to the crisis that occurs in your life, whether it's nationally, whether it's internationally, whether it's locally. You're reacting. But when you start striving towards things, you are being proactive in your life. And when you are thriving, you are strategizing and conquering and dominating in a way that puts you as the owner of the yacht, the owner of everything going on in your life. And although you can't control everything, but you can control how you respond to everything. Just by knowing what mode of life you're in will increase your happiness. Your happiness depends on your personality in addition to your decision making. Your personality determines how fast or slow you want to go. Your decision making decides where to go. As you see, the yacht has a bunch of billionaires on it in the picture. And there's a mystery guest. Keep watching to find out who the mystery guest is. Here's a hint. The mystery guest is a billionaire, but simultaneously not a billionaire. If billionaires aren't billionaires, are non-billionaires billionaires? There are 86,400 seconds in a day. Let's not waste another second. Welcome to the No Advice Needed podcast. I'm your host, John Joshua. 2 first names, no middle name. I rarely take the middle ground on anything. That's why I'm good at consulting. On this episode, we will go over one reason why you should not let anything stop you from reading this book. We will go over 2 failure mentality reasons why you won't read this book right away. We will go over why humans aren't meant to stay in survival mode. And finally, we will reveal the mystery guest on the yacht. Finally, we will reveal. And finally, 3, 2, 1. And finally, we will reveal the mystery guest on the yacht full of billionaires. Episode 8. Be a happy billionaire by doing this. I wrote a book. I wrote this book for you. Try Consulting pieced all of this together for you for future consulting. For future consulting. Well, let's figure out the answer to one question in particular. Why am I always talking about billionaires? Being a billionaire is just a measurement of currency. Well, the reason why I talk about being a billionaire is because when talking to a fifth grader or a young child, when you say a billionaire or a trillionaire or a zillion dollars, they understand that particular measurement. And when you compare things to the highest level, to the highest measurement level, then you can teach them how to gauge where they stand in their life and help them to determine where they want to be or where they could get to based on their potential. So when I'm talking about billionaire this or billionaire that, I'm setting up a particular measurement or a level of understanding that you can measure by. Case in point, how do you measure happiness? What is the measurement for happiness? Hold on to that. Life is so much better when you know the status of your happiness. Are you happy? Do you want to be happy? If the answer is yes, then you are also saying yes to being a billionaire. Yes, I said it again, a billionaire. Matter of fact, you're saying yes to being a happy billionaire. Think about it. From episode 1 all the way till now, I have talked about the 10 aspects of life. I've talked about fulfillment. I've talked about being a humble billionaire. These 3 concepts are the basic foundation points of the personal consulting branch of Try Consulting Solutions. These 3 concepts, and now there is a book. These 3 concepts plus now there's a book neatly ties all of this together. You have the Storytime preview episodes, you have the No Advice Needed podcast episodes, and now you have the Fulfillment Vital Signs, the Personal Fulfillment Overview book. We wrote this book for you. I wrote this book for you. Remember the phrase, it's nothing personal. It's just business. Business is always personal when personal interferes with business. Right now, I actually finished out the book maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I definitely want to thank all the people that bought the download version of the book, the digital copy. It brought joy to my heart just to see that it was already being received. I look forward to being able to discuss it with you and anybody else that reads the particular book. So, one reason why you should read this book right away. Fulfillment is the journey, the destination, and the feeling all in one. Happiness is one of the results of being fulfilled. In my journey of life, because I'm a Marine, because I'm currently an active cop, because I was a youth pastor, a minister, because I'm a pastor, I engage with all types of life, nationally, internationally, locally, statewide. And I have seen the effects of people's decisions in their lives. I've seen the reactions of many people consistently while being a cop. I see people on the worst days of their lives, and I investigate what led to them having the worst day of their life. They share some things in my investigation as far as trying to figure out if a crime was committed. But a lot of people, they, even victims, when you ask them, hey, what happened? they typically will go all the way back in history to some of the symptoms that led up to the root cause of their particular crisis or the particular crime that happened to them. This is why I consider myself an expert, because I've consistently dealt with people. I've consistently counseled people. I've consistently married people. I have buried people as far as conducting their funerals. I've seen people cry. I've seen people laugh, joyful times, times of mourning, times of grief. And throughout these various times, I have been able to remember and pinpoint certain moments of fulfillment, when they had fulfillment in their lives versus when they had unfulfillment in their lives. And when you have a steady stream of fulfillment in various aspects of your life, you have more success. You have more joy, more peace. You have more victories. You collect more trophies. You have 1,000 million moments of fulfillment. But on the other end, when you have so much unfulfillment in your life, then you have the opposite of joy. You have the opposite of victory. You have the opposite of great moments. You have the worst moments. How can you measure happiness? Well, you measure happiness the same way that you measure weight. We measure weight with pounds. We measure height with feet and inches. We measure light. We measure sound. We measure speed with miles per hour. How can you measure happiness? But what about happiness? What about joy? What about peace, fun? Those things are subjective to the feelings and experiences of each individual person, right? Yeah, they're subjective. No one has found a way to measure happiness this accurately until now. I wrote a book on how to measure happiness. This book also helps you measure the truth of your feelings. At this point, here are the steps that you should take. Step 1, read this book, Fulfillment Vital Signs. Step 2, listen or re-listen to the earlier No Advice Needed episodes while referring to this book. Step 3, watch and listen to all the episodes in order with the Storytime preview episodes. And by doing this, you will be able to locate the appropriate life targets that match what you actually want. Are you on the dock or are you on the yacht? Here are 2 failure mentality thinking errors. 2 failure mentality thinking errors on why you won't read this book right away. If you go back and listen to Storytime episode 8 preview, it talks about pride. And at the end of that, I go into detail about what is the number one cause of death globally. So globally, the number one cause of death, it's not heart disease. It's not cancer. It's pride. There are 2 reasons why you won't read this book right away. The first reason is you have nothing to prove. I have nothing to prove to anyone. Who cares if I have an unfulfilling life that stays in survival mode and I'm scraping by and I'm bitter and I'm angry and I'm frustrated with people and I take it out on people and I'm jealous of other people? Who cares? I have nothing to prove. I don't owe anybody anything. That is one mentality, one thinking error type mentality. The second failure thinking error mentality is the prideful person that says, I got this. I don't need help from anybody. I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm going to keep doing it my way. I don't care. I don't care about measuring my happiness. I don't care about fulfillment and reaching fulfillment in all aspects of my life. The only thing I need is I need to make a lot of money. I need to gain a lot of power, and I need to chase after all of the pleasures that I want in life. That's all I need to do. I got this. Everything's fine. Don't worry about me. 2 thinking air failure mentalities. Nothing to prove, and I got this. Pride is the number one cause of death, not only of an individual, but death to a family. Because you can pass on those types of mentality. You can pass on that type of pride to various members of your family, whether you know it or not. Whether you have kids or not, there's other people, there's younger people in your family that are paying attention to you. Whether you, let's say you don't have a family, or you only have a small family, there are coworkers and peers and colleagues and subordinates that are all paying attention to you. Unless you live in some type of cave or igloo, or you live off on your own, and you're avoiding people in society and civilizations, you're avoiding all those things altogether. That would be the only way that you don't interact with people. And based on your interactions, every time you interact with someone, you're either leaving an improving imprint on them or a damaging imprint on them. Even the shortest interactions, improving life imprint versus a damaging life imprint. A human being on the dock in all aspects of life is no different than land creatures being on land, or sea creatures being in the water, or birds being in the air. Unlike animals in nature, humans are not just science. Humans are science and social science. Here's the reason why humans aren't meant to stay in survival mode. Survival mode for humans is the same as survival mode for animals. Animals, they're looking for food, shelter, and they already have their particular clothing, right? Their fur or their skin. But they will go to various environments based on the weather, based on what their skin allows them to survive in. Humans, food, shelter, clothing, survival. That is just survival 101. When I was getting trained in Norway, I had to do winter survival training in Norway. And they taught us how to layer our clothing, that in the coldest of weather, when it's negative whatever amount of degrees it was in Norway. And the irony is, when I was in Norway, I was in this town called Hell. It was strange, but it was cold. I guess hell did freeze over. But they were teaching us various types of skills in survival mode, and layered clothing, that after you hiked for a certain amount of time and you had a certain amount of layers on, you would take the layers off to where you wouldn't sweat through your clothes, and thus making them wet all around. They also taught us about how to make an igloo and what is the purpose of an igloo. And when you make an igloo, you actually put a hole at the top of it. And that seems counterproductive. You would think that by putting a hole at the top of an igloo, that snow would get into the igloo and thus making it uninhabitable. But that's not the case. In fact, you have a fire that is going on. You create a fire in the igloo, similar to a fireplace in a residential home. But you have an igloo, you create the fireplace, you cut the hole in the top so the smoke can go out of the hole in the igloo. But it's the fire that's actually freezing the walls around the igloo. So it's extremely cold outside, extremely warm inside. And somehow, and other people who know the ins and outs of it, all the details of why it works, could probably give you a better rationale to it. But all I know is that igloo, it was hot inside. I was in a sleeping bag, and I had to like take the sleeping bag. I had to sleep on top of it. It was extremely hot. It was so hot that periodically that I welcomed when I needed to use the restroom and go outside in the freezing cold. Summer inside the igloo, negative 50 degree or 30 degree weather outside of the igloo. Survival mode. Animals are in survival mode. So humans, when they are in survival mode, that is just a reaction to nature, a reaction to that particular environment. So humans in survival mode, just like animals, food is a comfort. Getting a lot of food is a comfort. Reproducing is a comfort and a necessity. Finding warmth is a comfort. Finding shelter is a comfort. There's all these little small comforts that happen. Sometimes swimming is, for animals, it's a comfort in nature. Same for humans that are in survival mode. It's an actual comfort. But unlike animals in nature, humans are not just science. Humans are science and social science. When you're in survival mode, you are constantly looking for coping, comforting happiness. Coping, comforting happiness is a reaction to the harsh realities of your particular environment. So, can animals be anxious? Yes. Can humans be anxious? Yes. Based on the type of environment that they're in? Yes. Can humans be depressed? Can animals be depressed? Yes. This is all based on the type of environment that you're in. But when you go through anxiety and depression in survival mode, then you are looking for small little coping, comforting happiness moments. But you're also, for humans that are in survival mode, you are looking for coping, comforting happiness distractions. Because that coping, comforting happiness is a reaction to the depression and the anxiety that is building up in your reality. Distraction after distraction after distraction. The biggest difference between the modern generation and the most recent past generation is distractions. Now, keep in mind, when are distracted in survival mode, they die because there's predators out there trying to kill various animals. So their distractions lead to their particular death as an animal. But humans in survival mode, their distractions leads to a slow death, a slow depression, a slow decrease in joy, in fulfillment, in various aspects of your life. Distraction after distraction after distraction. The biggest difference between this modern generation and the most recent past generation, I'm talking the difference between millennials and Gen Z, is Gen Z has at least 1,000 times more coping, comforting distraction options than the millennials had. 19 years ago in 2004, there was MySpace, Friendster, and Facebook. There was just 3 social media platforms. Now, there are 36 social media platforms with 100 million active users. According to newvisiontheaters.com, there are roughly 128 social media platforms in the world. It went from 3 social media platforms to 128 platforms. That is a 4,200% increase just in social media alone of distractions, of things that you can cope with, things that can bring you comfort and happiness short term. Going back to the human and animal analogy, animals don't need a lot to make them happy. They just need food. They just need to be pet or consoled or to be able to reproduce or cuddle or spoon each other. That's all animals need to be happy. It doesn't take much to make a dog happy. It does take a lot to make humans happy. But when a human is in survival mode, it doesn't take a lot to be comfortable. It doesn't take a lot to get comforted. If you just get drunk, there's a form of coping and delaying the inevitable. Delaying the inevitable doesn't mean that you won't have to face it. It just means you have a little comfort. So when you binge watch certain TV shows, or when you binge eat, or when you binge anything, it can distract you from survival mode, but survival mode will still be there, because until you get out of survival mode, until you progress past survival mode, it's still there day in and day out. But I understand. Standing up for Generation Z. I understand you guys. You are getting distracted more than ever before. That is a 4,200% increase just in social media alone. So Gen Z isn't just 1,000 times more tempted to distract themselves from reality. They are over 4,000 times more tempted than the millennial generation before them. Gen Z, they are scared to intrinsically want something that they might not get. So they settle for extrinsic happiness. According to verywellmind.com, intrinsic motivation is when you engage in a behavior because you find it rewarding. You are performing an activity for its own sake rather than from the desire of external reward. The behavior itself is its own reward. Extrinsic motivation is when we are motivated to perform a behavior or engage in an activity because we want to earn a reward or avoid punishment. You will engage in behavior not because you enjoy it or because you find it satisfying, but because you expect to get something in return or avoid something unpleasant. That's the whole point of all of this. That you don't just live your life just to survive a pandemic. You don't just live your life just to survive a recession or to survive a crisis. You live your life for the journey and the destination and the feeling of fulfillment in all aspects of your life. You have an opportunity by being on the yacht. You have an opportunity to strive towards something that's beyond just being on the dock. You have an opportunity to reach a level of happiness that you've never reached before. You have an opportunity to experience joy in a way that you've never felt before. I feel sorry for those people that never are vulnerable enough to open themselves up to love someone else because their fear is getting their heart broke. They have fear that they'll be sad. They have fear of failure. This is the moment where you decide if you're going to be on the dock, if you want to stay in survival mode, or do you want to take one of the 10 aspects out of your life, whether it's spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, culturally, socially, parental, marital, whatever aspect of life. If you want to just take one of those aspects and strive towards something, then get in the yacht. If you want to feel some type of happiness, some type of joy, some type of success in one of the aspects of your life, then put that aspect on the yacht and get in the yacht. Strive towards something, because that's what people who are in striving mode or thriving mode do. Financially, a billionaire reaches the highest level of fulfillment by being a billionaire financially. Now, you can become a billionaire, but to stay a billionaire, you have to do certain things. You still have to strive. You still have to thrive. On a YouTube short recently I watched at It's Truly Wealth, Emmanuel Acho, he's a sports analyst for a particular show. He said, the reason why most people fail is they give up what they want most for what they want now. The reason why most people fail is they give up what they want most for what they want now. That is the exact definition. That is placed into words of what's going on in the mind of somebody that's in survival mode. They give up something that they may dream about, something that they may want. They give that up for what they want right now, what will be comforting to them, because it's too hard to swim in the ocean or to jump in that water. It's too hard to get in a yacht. That yacht may sink. I mean, you saw the movie Titanic. Something bad can happen. Someone can die. A whole group of people can die. But by living for the purpose of reaching intrinsic happiness instead of extrinsic comfort is the difference of whether or not you reach fulfillment or unfulfillment. The biggest difference between intrinsic fulfillment and extrinsic happiness. Just because you're happy, it doesn't mean you're fulfilled. But being fulfilled automatically makes you happy. Animals are happy when they instinctively get what they want. They have a desire, they chase after it, they go get it. They are happy for the moment because whatever they got brought pleasure to one of their five senses. Survival mode for animals and humans is only based on your five senses. What you can see, taste, touch, smell, hear, and having comfort from receiving pleasure in those five senses. That's what surviving is about. It's instinct, it's pleasure, it's seeking what you want. But life for humans, for mankind, is not the same as it is for animals. We can live our life on a journey with a purpose to have a certain type of imprint in life. Do you want to have an improving life imprint or a damaging life imprint? Because when animals die, the majority of animals, especially the animals that are in the wild, they don't get funerals. Animals don't get funerals in the wild. Domesticated animals, they barely get funerals. When our family dog passed away, it got a version of a funeral. It was more of a moment of silence as we took the animal to the vet hospital, and then had our family dog cremated. Animals don't get funerals, humans do. But when you live your life in survival mode, only when you stay in survival mode, it's not going to be much of a funeral. It's going to be this person existed, this person lived. And really, if you were bitter while you were living your life, this person hurt people will be the mantra at the funeral. But if people are trying to be nice, which typically they are, then they'll say nice things like, oh, he was a nice person, or he did something that was good. He was a good person. But those who stay in survival mode typically will not live life for all that it's worth. They will not reach fulfillment. They will not intrinsically find happiness or intrinsically find joy and peace. That's what Try Consulting Solutions is about. This is what the personal consulting is about. And then when we get to the business consulting, it's a whole nother world. I can't wait to get to it. I've been waiting this whole time from episode 1 all the way until now to be able to discuss and talk about business. But we'll get to that. Humans are fulfilled when they intrinsically get what they want. When you engage in a behavior that you find rewarding here intrinsically, that's when you were fulfilled. Something similar to military or law enforcement or family or in the medical field or the legal field, or when you're on the missionary field or you volunteer for stuff in outreach, when you're in public office, when you're in entertainment, when you're in food service, customer service, content creation. Animals don't care about an improving life imprint or a damaging life imprint. But deep, deep down, you do care about it. I venture to say that even though some of you will say, I'm on the dock, I'm not in the yacht, I want to live my life on the dock, deep down inside, there's some wants and some desires, some intrinsic wants and desires that you may not share with other people because you're either too scared or you're one of those two prideful failure thinking air mentalities of, I don't have anything to prove. Well, no, you're scared of failure. Or, I got it, I don't need any help. No, you're scared of being corrected. You're scared that you're going the wrong way. So you rather just die chasing after something the wrong way. And that's your choice. Both are your choice. But either way, this podcast, this book can help you determine what you want in life. This book can help you reach fulfillment in all aspects of your life so you too can become a humble billionaire. In episode 1, I expressed that I am a humble billionaire, but I realized that as you get to know me, I'm not really a famous example as of yet, maybe one day, but here's a famous example. Billionaires aren't even billionaires. Well, when we're talking about the billionaire, the humble billionaire that I define in that particular book, billionaires aren't billionaires. They're just billionaires financially, but not necessarily in all aspects of their lives. So they're not even humble billionaires. So let's talk about some billionaire facts before we get to the billionaire, the billionaire that's on the yacht, the mystery reveal. We're finally at the end. Between Forbes.com and FastCompany.com, there are between 2,600 and 3,200 billionaires in the world. The top 3 billionaire countries are Germany with 173 billionaires, China with 357 billionaires, and the United States with 955 billionaires. The top 3 billionaire cities are San Francisco with 84 billionaires, Hong Kong with 112 billionaires, and New York with 136 billionaires. Let's go back to the picture of this episode. Let's do the math on these 4 billionaires. And this is just for example, that billionaires aren't billionaires in all aspects of their lives. Do the math between the 4 billionaires in the picture. 5 out of 6 marriages ended in divorce between 4 billionaires that you saw in that picture at the start of this episode. All billionaires aren't billionaires in all 10 aspects of their lives. I'll let you do the research and find out of the 4 billionaires who all had a divorce. Now, I'm not saying that just because you have a divorce, that means you have unfulfillment in the marital aspect of your life. But I am saying that by having a divorce, there was some form of unfulfillment. It doesn't mean that there is now. Maybe the billionaires improved in how they see marriage or how they reach fulfillment in marriage. Maybe they have a better understanding. I don't know. It's not for me to judge. However, it does highlight the point that just because you're a billionaire, it doesn't mean that you're happy. Just because you're a billionaire doesn't mean you have fulfillment in all aspects of your life. But that is the intrinsic goal. That should be for all of us, especially if you're trying to live the best life possible. Well, how about you identify what are the targets? What are the aspects of life that you want to have the best life possible in? If all billionaires aren't billionaires, it's the non-billionaires billionaires. Try to say that 5 times in a row. If all billionaires aren't billionaires, are the non-billionaires billionaires? The answer to that question is yes. Some non-billionaires are billionaires. This non-billionaire may not even know that he's a billionaire because he's not a billionaire financially as of yet. It's time to reveal the mystery guest. Financially, this person is technically a non-billionaire for now. However, according to the Fulfillment Vital Signs book, this man is in thriving mode financially, which means he has reached fulfillment in the financial aspect of his life. Without further ado, the blurry person on the yacht is none other than four-time NBA champion superstar of the Golden State Warriors, Mr. Stephen Curry. Yeah. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, like, share, comment. Based solely on all the information that I gathered about Mr. Curry, I believe that he most likely fits the criteria of having various levels of fulfillment in all 10 aspects of his life. I believe Mr. Stephen Curry is a humble billionaire. Definitely something to applaud. So in light of this, because I wrote a chapter about Stephen Curry, I actually wrote this last year before his underrated documentary came out. Also, before he put the Golden State Warriors on his back to demolish my Kings from Sacramento. I can't even really call them my Kings, but because I'm from Sacramento, demolished the Kings, which I knew he would a year later from when I actually wrote the chapter about him. But in light of all this, I want to play a game. It is called 6 Degrees of Separation on why Stephen Curry should read the bonus chapter that I wrote about him in my Fulfillment Vital Signs book. 1, we both, for real, rock with Bizzle. For real. 2, my biological father's family lives in Oakland, and my favorite auntie is still there. What's up, Aunt Kay? 3, I wrote this bonus chapter about you last year in August of 2022, before your underrated documentary was released. To me, that documentary is on the level with Michael Jordan's Come Fly With Me. 4, I'm born and raised in Sacramento, and I hella went against everybody in the light the beam culture. I got receipts. I knew you'd put the team on your back, and you did. 5, in my estimation, just outside looking in, we are both humble billionaires. The bonus chapter in my book talks about the $1 billion game that you played in and why that game quite possibly brought the most fulfillment to the aspirational aspect of your life. Let me know if I'm right or wrong about that. 6, I never look in the camera when I do my podcast episodes, but I am right now to ask you, Mr. Curry, greatest point guard of all time, will you read the bonus chapter that I wrote about you in my book, Fulfillment Vital Signs? If so, 6, I never look in the... 6, I never look into the camera. 6, I never look into the camera. But, Mr. Curry, if you're watching, the greatest... I never look into the camera, but I'm doing it now. Mr. Curry, greatest point guard of all time, will you read the bonus chapter that I wrote about you in my book? And let me know if I got it right with the $1 billion game that you played in. 7, I know it's 6 degrees of separation, but here's 7. Mr. Curry, just like you love Mrs. Aisha Curry with all your heart and you listen to her counsel, I love my wife, Mrs. Latasha Strada, with all my heart. And I didn't come up with this, ask Stephen Curry to read the bonus chapter on my own. My wife told me to do it, and she was right. Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. And this concludes the 6 degrees of separation game. Here's some takes that I don't think anybody has said about Steph Curry. I'd like to be the first to actually say it. Maybe they have said it, but I don't know if they said it and it's made it on YouTube or made it to any of the sports shows that really matter. So here are my takes. Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. I know they're currently debating between him and Magic Johnson. To me, it is him. Magic, of course, one of the greatest playmakers of all time, if not the greatest playmaker. And we know that Stephen Curry is the greatest three-point shooter, greatest shooter of all time. But how great is Steph Curry the greatest shooter? How great is Magic Johnson the greatest playmaker? I would venture to say that Stephen Curry is a greater three-point shooter than Magic Johnson is a playmaker. What do you think? That's one take. Second take, Curry and LeBron are the modern day Magic and Bird. We look at time frames where they're in the NBA, there are an era where it has an individual that stands out or individuals that stand out. And then there's time frames where there are combined two individuals that stand out to keep the league going. Case in point. So Curry and LeBron, to me, in this era, saved the NBA post-Jordan era. Whereas Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Julius Erving, and Kareem, those were all individuals during a certain individualistic era. But it wasn't necessarily a rival. There were rivalries, but I mean, Boston won everything for the most part. But when we look at Curry and LeBron, the same way that we look at Magic and Bird, they were competing with each other, taking titles away from each other. That is what makes them the saviors of this era of basketball. I think long term, we will look back on the Curry-LeBron era and we will appreciate it more than what we did. I think we completely appreciated Jordan. We completely appreciated Kobe and Shaq. We completely appreciated Kareem and Wilt and Bill Russell. They all got their accolades during the time frame of their era and then post their era. But LeBron kind of gets hated on the most, and it's probably because he is the most physically imposing athlete, all-around basketball athlete, since Shaq or Wilt or various people of that nature, since Jordan. But there are a team of heroes and there's individual heroes. I believe that Curry and LeBron are the team of heroes in this era. To conclude this episode of the No Advice Needed podcast, I wrote a book. Everything should be made clear now between these No Advice Needed episodes, the Storytime preview episodes, and this particular book. You should read it, Fulfillment Vital Signs, because I want you to be a humble billionaire, just like Stephen Curry is a humble billionaire, just like I am a humble billionaire. And there are many others like us, just like my wife is a humble billionaire. It's just my 2 cents, but it could be worth a humble billion. Sincerely, John Joshua, 2 first names, no middle.